Bill said he would be setting things up in council chambers.
Great. How are you both doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yay.
So Joanne, how do you find those AirPod things? Do they work well?
I love them. I think they're great. It's nice not to have a cord. I don't know, they're just great. I got the AirPod Plus because I have tiny ears and I needed the little tiny things to go inside. The other ones didn't fit. The other ones were too fat to go inside my ears.
I do have to say,
yeah.
sorry. I just bought some for the gym and they are the best things ever.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, since I saw them and we don't have everybody joining yet, I figured I would ask. I was this one rattles a lot. Like, the cord keeps hitting my clothes. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
you don't get any of that with these things.
Right. You sound very crisp and clear.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, I bought some and Joe, after like 2 weeks of Joe dealing with wires at the gym, he went out and bought some. So I do have to say they're a good investment.
All right. Well, I've talked myself out of it for now because I'm like, I've got these janky old earphones. They'll be all right. So I can save myself the money until I'm like going crazy, I guess. I'm gonna send an email.
Might be a good gift. It might be a good gift for the holidays.
Right. Yeah, I'll send some hints out there to the world. I'm gonna email Bill and see. Oh, there we go. All right. Well, I clicked the button. Well, ta-da! All right. Hopefully, there's someone in the room with them. Alan said that he would be in attendance, but would be a little bit late. So, hi, Bill.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Is there
Hello.
anyone present with you in council chambers?
There is not.
Okay. All right.
Do have the owl set up so if someone comes in and they talk, it'll catch them.
It's funny that it has the blur on, and so you're like floating in a sea of like gauzy, effects.
I have no idea why.
Yeah, that's all right.
The equipment that's normally here was moved up to the odd last night. So
Yeah,
this
that makes
is
sense.
my laptop.
You just brought your
plugged
laptop,
into
yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Well,
he's in a dreamlike state.
Right, yeah.
Oh, don't I wish.
All right. Our word of the day is oniric, then, everyone. So means having dreamlike qualities. So there you go.
I'm gonna look that up later.
Yeah. I used to be on lots of word a day lists, you know. But I learned them all, right? So wah, wah. We're still waiting on quorum. That's why I'm not entertaining anyone. So yeah. Alan said, as I was saying just before you joined, Alan said that he would be in attendance, but they would be a few minutes late. So I think it makes sense to, even if no one's in council chambers, we can expect that we'll have a quorum in a short time. Tina also said that she would be coming, so I expect that she will sign in.
This gives me an opportunity to poll people about their driving experience today
Oh, neat. Go ahead.
or walking experience. How did folks find things for traveling?
I didn't
s-
go anywhere. So
I didn't
yeah, go ahead.
either.
I live on Bassett Street, so that's a no-go.
I did go out and clear the end of my driveway a couple times. And so which is to say the plow was going through and clearing the street.
So I did a kind of a community survey this morning to see how we were doing, and overall, we did reasonably well. We were a little bit slow on the east side of the city, northeast and southeast. I was really pleased with the west side. I actually did drive past Bassett Street at about 8:20, and we had actually had a truck out through Granite and Bassett, and I was surprised because nothing was done in the northeast portion of the city, but all good.
Yes, the plow definitely went by the house many times, so I know that the street was plowed. But I didn't have to go anywhere, so I didn't.
Yeah, we had a plow come by early, but it left it somewhat slushy, so. But we usually wait for a second plow to come by before we attempt to go anywhere. Bassett's kind of dodgy, especially with that stop at the bottom of the hill. No idea why it's there, but it's there.
We were looking at our strategy for this. We have 3 different operations. One is something that we call sanding and salting. And that's done usually as a pre-treatment. And I had expected the guys to be in around 3. I believe they came in around 5, which meant we weren't pre-treating, we were actually treating as the snow was falling. And that sets us back a little bit. So we're going to do a diagnostic and see what folks think we could do better. But for a first storm, this was a pleasant one. Our complaint level was less than a dozen today, which is really good for a first storm.
Well, as you can see, Tina has joined us.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. I was responding to an email from Alan for a moment, and I didn't see that you had joined the waiting room, so I came and I clicked on you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that makes 4 of us, makes a quorum. So I'm gonna call this meeting to order at 6:36. Meeting of the Transportation Advisory Committee, I should say, to be precise. All right, are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening? I think it's possible that we don't have new data for the speed signs, and so we could at this point we'll table that for a future meeting. The backstory is this one we've been following up with since we had Bill's preliminary information about the data in May. But various things have come up that have pushed it back, and now there's a challenge with having the credentials to log in and get the data, and Bill's working on it. So that's the scoop. I could have said that later and not tabled it. All right, well, anyway, what's done is done. Anything else? All right, we will not adjust anything then for the minutes, for the agenda rather, but has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from our September meeting? All right, great. Are there any corrections or changes that we should make to those minutes? All right, if not, then we could have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll
September
second.
21st.
All right, and Erica is seconding that. All in favor of approving the minutes can raise your hand or say aye. Here's, all
Aye.
right, that's unanimous. We will we have approved the minutes. Great. Moving on to visitors and communications. I expect, and hello, Alan. Expect. Yeah. We do not have any visitors unless someone has joined Bill in the council chambers, and that's a no. All right. Well, in that case, we can move on to number 5, the Public Works monthly transportation report. That's page 2 in the packet. Bill, is there anything you wanted to add to the submitted report?
Yeah, I think I'd cover the things that we had hoped to get done and did not, because they were, I think, important. We actually were supposed to install 2 bulb outs on Merchant Street. We did redo the sidewalks and give them appropriate ADA compliant tip downs, but we didn't get in the 2 bulb outs. And the bulb outs were going to go along with trying to create the serpentine path. So we've got parking on alternating sides of the street. And we had actually moved the center line, and we were going to have bulb outs that were going to be on different sides of the streets to help complement that. Those did not get done. And the other place that we didn't get them done was at Academy Street. We had intended to put a bulb out on the uphill side. And although we had considered the possibility of doing a protected bike lane and a parking lane outside of that, when we started looking at the bulb out dimensions, we were concerned about stormwater conveyance. So we were going to do just a simple 8-foot bulb out just above the Academy Street crosswalk and deflect traffic away from the curb area there. That wasn't built. And so as the season went on, those things were supposed to happen, but we're suffering fairly serious staff shortages. I've got 4 vacancies now. In the last 5 months, we've had 1 applicant. And we've advertised this on both the newspaper sources and in media sources such as Indeed. And there's another internet hiring service that we tried, and without success. And for a brief time there, we were hoping we could pick off maybe 2 or 3 of Chelsea's employees. But I understand they've gone back to work for Chelsea. They were briefly unemployed about 3 days. And I didn't reach out fast enough. So we're still looking, but it truly affected our ability to get stuff done. Other than that, I think it's a fairly good summary of what we did do. I think there are some successes in it. The one that I'm quite pleased with is that the bulb outs on Washington, where we got negative comments in the first 3 to 5 weeks, we've had no follow-up comments from anyone with objections to them. And we actually inspected the condition of them, and they're not actually being hit hard. They look like they've had only 2 or 3 tractor trailer tires that have scuffed the curb, and the pavement's in good condition. So very effective, and they'll be durable.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. I think that it's a sign that you've made them at the right dimensions, probably.
So I think it's good to note that we did have a complaint that 2 trucks couldn't pass, and we'd actually designed them so that they could. But one of the observations was the trucks slowed down. And I thought, there's the evidence that you want. When a detractor calls up and says it did exactly what you were hoping for. So it was, I was really pleased.
Wait, so when they said they couldn't pass, what they meant was they couldn't pass at like 35? Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
So they were implying that they couldn't pass each other, and then it turned out they truly can. And so there's a
They just-
reserved
Mhm.
14-foot lane width there, which is more than enough room. And
Well, I'm very glad to hear all of this. Following up on that one for a moment, I thought when we had talked about it before that the Mount Street, Perry Street intersection was the one that was due to have them built, and that the Academy Street we were due a different design, because we'd looked at a preliminary design for it, and then we had not, we didn't look at it after that. So not installing that bulb out seems in keeping of with the plan. I thought.
I think you're correct, because Mount Street was something that the TAC had looked at and provided advisement, and that bulb out was going to be on the east side, the downhill side of the street, and no, that didn't get built either. And I can bring back the design for Academy Street with the sidewalk, crosswalk in the new location. One of the issues that happened there is that the state, we had written to them and asked them to move the center line towards the east to deal with the parking and the possibility of a bike lane going uphill. And apparently the drivers, despite the engineer's confirmation that it would be moved, decided not to drive down the lines that were marked. And I photographed it, and I'm using that as an example of, can I get them to come in and grind that line out so that it could be moved next spring to where we'd like it. And so I do have a request out for a price to grind the line out on a per foot basis. I'm hopeful that their mistake might help them agree to do that and give us reasonable pricing.
Yep, sounds good. Do we have any anything that you're aware of in terms of new resident concerns that were raised?
So I
hadn't
don't
heard
have
any. Mhm.
I don't have anything that came in by telephone. Nothing came in by C-Click-Fix. I'm actually a little bit disappointed with the rate of usage of C-Click-Fix. It was relatively slow. The traffic, there was a traffic complaint in it, and it was associated with McGillicuddy's, the street address for McGillicuddy's. So I'm not sure what it was, and I won't speculate, but that was the only traffic-related entry in C-Click-Fix.
Joanne, go ahead.
Bill, I submitted one about the pothole on the pothole cover on Hill Street and Camp Street. I don't know if you saw that.
So
It came out with a weird address for me. I don't know why it did that, but it seems to be loose and it keeps being rattled when people drive over it.
So I did see that one, and normally I didn't see a response for it. So it was assigned to our sewer work leader. And normally what we do is we take it's literally a ribbon of asphalt with some fiber reinforcement, set it under the cover, drop the cover back on it, and that's dampens that steel on steel so it won't rattle. And I can follow up on that with Everett.
Great, thank you. And there was one today about the street not being plowed. I can't remember which street it was though. It was over by Courier. Saw that.
So when I actually checked this afternoon, I didn't see that, and I don't know if I had a filter on that prevented that, but I'll look again. We had about 5 or 6 complaints. Most of the complaints were people that lived on hills. So we had a complaint on Pleasant Street. We had another complaint on Tremont near Elm. And when I went out this morning, the Tremont and Elm ones, I thoroughly understood because we hadn't done any residential intersections as of 8:30. And so the goal is to have all the mains done before 6:30, have the residential intersections done before 7:30. The full crew came in at 7 o'clock and started plowing, but we were really not keeping up with the storm as it accumulated. So
That was fast. It was Maple Grove. That's what it was. And it didn't come to my email until like 5:45. I don't know why I got an email, but I did.
Can I ask where we are on salt for this year? Like, is every truck full? Do we have stockpiles of it? That's been something I went to work at 6:30 and I saw people drifting by Mr. Z's as they were taking that left. I didn't know if that was just slush from the lighter snow we had, or if there's something else we could do to take care of that, or I don't know, honestly.
So I think your observation, I'm sure, was correct, because that was in the sand salt operation, and they hadn't plowed. Our shed was full. We ran about 65 tons out of it today. We have over 350 at the start, and we have a contract for salt purchase. There's been some things in the news about the fact that one of the local suppliers was bought by its competitors, and they closed the local distribution outlet that was in Montpelier Junction. We signed a contract with Barrett's out of Shelburne, and again, the price this year is up something in the vicinity of 17% over last year. But it didn't surprise me as a commodity to see that, especially. So we just signed on at the higher price. We don't expect there's going to be any salt shortage, even if there is a rail strike, basically because there's so much product in storage in Vermont. There's easily 2.5 months worth of storage. Even if the rail strike occurs, it'll still be delivered by truck.
I assume,
Oh, go ahead, Alan.
I'm sorry. I assume that price is locked in. 17% sounds a lot better than what I've been hearing. I'm very glad to hear that, at least.
Yeah, it is locked in. It was $86.12 a ton.
Okay.
I think I heard Barrytown was at 88 at their last discussion and negotiations. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Before we move on, talking about the rattling manhole brought to mind a previous citizen concern. Keep saying citizen, I mean resident. Anyway, on the Washington Street near the there was that the folks who were asking for an additional speed sign also noted that there was a lot of disturbed asphalt around the manhole right outside of their house, and I have not been past there in a while, so I just thought it would be a moment to check in with Bill and see if you knew what the status of that one is. I can also just go and look at it sometime.
So I actually don't know the specific status. One of the things that DPW did this year different was that we didn't start as much heavy construction. And so we actually repaired over 80 manholes this summer. We estimate that we only have about 170 to go.
Cool. Well, Thank you. And I'll go look at it on my own. I just thought maybe, you know, if you knew. All right. Next up on our agenda, the old business thing we tabled. So we'll come back to speed sign data once we get access to it. But definitely, you know, we're looking forward to it because that's part of the reason we have the signs, is for the data that they provide. All right, go ahead, Joanna.
And I'm sorry, I don't know which section this belongs in, whether it's in the DPW report or in the old business, but I just wondered about the crossing gateways. Bill, I remember you said at our last meeting that you had understood that there was difficulty finding a vendor for those. And I just wondered whether you had found a vendor and whether those have been ordered. And also whether this is an appropriate time for me to ask that question.
I think it fits under the department report. That is okay.
So I did find a vendor, and mysteriously 4 of them have appeared at the end of the DPW complex. They're sitting on DPW property. And I had talked with a salesman from one of the vendors about my need for them. And I believe that that's actually where they came from, that they were samples left there for us. And he didn't get back in touch with me because he had worked with the staff at the garage. I followed up with the staff and said, did he leave them for me? And they said they don't know. But we have 4 delineators that we could put on the crosswalk, and we actually removed all of our speed humps on Monday of this week, the portable ones. So I'm not sure that I will set it up this winter. But if I see a week of warm weather, I'll do it, just because the setup will be usable next spring.
Well, that's very
Oh, great.
exciting. Yeah. thanks
Great,
for
thank
asking.
you.
All right, next on our agenda, 7.1 is talking about the Transportation Alternatives Program. So the first thing, so this is on our agenda optimistically, speculatively. So the first thing to say is whether or not we actually have the capacity to do it. If we don't have the capacity, we don't really need to spend a lot of time talking about it, other than to recognize it's this is it's a good source for funding for some of the urban transportation stuff that we focus on. And so there's there's 3 categories, I suppose. There's drainage related stuff, there's mobility path related stuff, and there's scoping studies. And it seemed to me like the people who win are people who get scoping studies, the people who, and so like they spend up to $300,000 on the drainage or like bike lanes, walking paths, that sort of thing. But the people who seem to be getting those are people who have scoping studies in place. So my thought was, hey, why don't we decide on something that we should apply for a scoping study for? It seems like the application for a scoping study should be a much smaller lift. But again, Bill at any point could just say, we don't have the capacity for this right now. We'll try to build the capacity and come back around. So just that's why this is there.
So first, I'd say I think it's a really good idea to have the committee look at this opportunity. Right now, I have 3 vacancies in my office. The water and sewer superintendent is vacant, the engineering technician is vacant, and the assistant public works director is vacant. And so I'm spread pretty thin, but it's also a deadline that if I can create something that maybe with some help would be a simplified application, I'd like not to miss the opportunity. I think we have a lot of needs, and so trying to define some goals that would fit into that, and I think is a great idea. And I'd say let's see if we can pull together a simplified application. I think that's well worth doing.
Yeah, so it seems like the the stuff that scores well is connecting to resources. So it's like, I mean, there's a bunch. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the guide. It's in the packet. It's rather lengthy, but it seems like having different modes of transportation scores well, and having destinations that you're connecting, not just sort of saying we're making a path in the woods or something. It scores higher to have destinations. And so when I was first bringing this up to Bill, one of the things that I thought could be good to focus on was making a complete streets treatment for South Main Street between City Hall and the intersection of Ayers Street, so that you would have like traffic calming and bike lanes to improve access for walking and biking to the high school. So anyway, it seems to me like that's going to tick a lot of boxes. The thing that I'm always trying to get done is improving the crossing conditions on Summer Street. And, as a result of doing that, reducing speed on Summer Street. I'm not sure that one, it's not as obvious to me that would score as highly to people reviewing the application. Obviously it's in the middle of, the urban street grid, and it connects many things, but it's not as clear of a destination as saying like it gets people from a neighborhood to the post office and City Hall. It gets people from like downtown to Spalding. So I mean, I feel like, South Main probably, it looks to my, definitely on the outside perspective, it seems like that would be a stronger application. And part of the reason to focus on these two things is that they're things that they're already in plans. So we can point to the municipal plan and say, bike lanes and complete streets to get to the high school is, it's something that's discussed in the municipal plan. And we also have this, those of you who have been here for a little bit know that we have a plan for Summer Street from 2012. And so I think, both of these, being able to move them forward a little bit, there seems like there's a lot of we can make a case for them based on historical focus on them with the city. But also those were just the things that I brought forward. So I'm happy to see if there's something that other folks think we could hook into this program. Go ahead, Tina.
Let me get myself off of mute. So the one thing I noticed, Michael, was that there was sorry, trying to see without my glasses, but the training was today for that application. Is that correct?
I think it was around now. I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it to it. But
Well,
that was another reason I thought it made sense to focus on a scoping study, because but
okay.
also I assume that Bill knows a lot about it.
Okay, because I just saw
No,
that and
no,
I'm like,
yeah, go ahead,
I
sorry.
would have no clue where to start. But the one other thing, as you were speaking, and remember, I'm very new at this and just kind of speaking from what we've all discussed, but we had that whole discussion around the crossing and accessibility and by North Berry Manor and Cumberland Farms, the Old Times Argus, Dollar General, all of that. And as you're saying, bike lanes, who wouldn't want complete streets everywhere here, right? But I think going to Spalding from City Hall is like, oh my God, where do we even find the land to get complete streets? But remember, I'm new and I haven't seen
Oh
any of
yeah.
this.
No, I think that it would be something that would be done within the existing road right of way. So there wouldn't be a new path anywhere.
Okay.
It would just be a different way of designing the streets to have different uses.
To combine both. Okay. So anyway, that as you were saying that, I was thinking that area by North Berry Manor, because of course the bike lanes are already in and it gives people accessibility to the bike lanes already in on the Barry Montpelier Road. Just food for thought. I have no idea what I'm talking about yet.
No, I think that's a good thing to add. I cannot remember if I'm sure that somewhere in our plan, there's something about making sure that the bike paths are connected. And so I think that there's possibly some prior planning to point to say there's a reason for us to pursue this scoping study. I think it's a possibility.
So one of the things about our existing bike plans are that they have some holes in them. So right now, there's an alternative that's been used from the Vermont Granite Museum down to Berlin Street. And there is a marked bike lane on US 302. The bike lane actually stops at Berlin Street and it becomes combined traffic. And so basically there's a sign bicycles may use lane. And that does make a scoping examination important there. But we have the leg that goes from Berlin Street to Blackwell Street on Smith Street. Because the original plan was that there would be a bridge that actually crossed the river and got us back over to the Vermont Granite Museum property. The bridge, I believe, was last estimated at 1.2 million. And so that segment has never seen final design, but a scoping study could actually answer some of those questions more fully. And whether, again, I think both of those have merit. When I look at the school connection and the population that could benefit from having bicycling, I think that's a very attractive candidate because there are a lot of bicyclists in the 12 to 18-year-old age range, and creating that mobility for them really, particularly in a school district that doesn't bus, makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of value to that. But the north end equally, because we need to redo some of the scoping segments because we've pretty much decided we can't do them based on cost. Both are good candidates.
Yeah, I mean, I would push toward trying to do the South Main Street direction, mostly because of the the connection to the school, that we can make a case for the number of people that are served. And I think there's a lot of pieces we have to get together to have the North Main Street bike connection become real. And we have not figured out how to thread that needle yet. So, but anyway, like Bill was saying, a scoping study could help with that, but I would hate to throw another thing onto the the bike path to Montpelier, list of things not working. But that's not to say that we shouldn't do it, because if it worked, that would be awesome. Did anybody else have any thoughts about those?
So we had some conceptual discussions about altering the Church Street to Washington Street intersection. And that might be a candidate that we would ask for design on. Again, basically bringing that to a 90-degree turn where Church Street actually crosses Washington. Right now, it's got that slip lane. Modifying that and getting a final design that include a truck-friendly alignment would be worthwhile. So that might be a project that we would move perhaps past scoping and ask for final design, and that would advance that project.
Do you think we've done enough of the groundwork to make that to make a good application for that?
I believe so. And if I look back, at one point, there was a rotary around City Hall Park, and there actually wasn't a slip lane there. The church lot came out further from Spalding Street down almost to the island. So there's historic data as well that shows it's practical.
Well, that one is dear to my heart, but I also don't want to. I don't want to have my favorite projects be the ones that I prioritize. Well, my thought is the thing that's in sort of in this. Let me try to start the sentence over. In the context of this application, it seems like the making a connection where a connection is not as great is the criteria. And I don't know if I'm not confident that I would be able to make a case for how that's going to happen with making the Church Street intersection better. But I would love to see that intersection, like redesigned with the needs of the community in mind. And so if you think there's a way to convincingly make that case and get a design out of it, I mean, that's pretty big progress.
I really should go back and look at the guidance and just make certain of that, but I think we could conceivably submit more than one and identify one as being our higher priority.
Yeah, that is true. They say you could submit as many as you want. Of course, it seems profligate probably to submit many of them, but let's I think probably what I would nudge us to do is just, now these are my lists. Someone else should say what they think should happen.
I'm going to throw another out there that is on my wish list, and that's Hill Street from Nelson to the city line. And if we look at that street segment, you'll see that once you get into the town, there's almost 42 feet of pavement width. It includes a paved ditch. And the segment that's in the city drops to about 31 feet at Woodland Drive. And so I have no ditch there, and I have an erosion channel. And so there's a drainage component as well as a mobility component. If we were to, again, they may look for a scoping first, but this is a really well-defined scope. It's basically a stormwater project, an expansion within the existing right-of-way to accommodate a bike lane, and it connects the widths of street in the city that are available down below to the town, where the widths again are great, but there's that one narrow section from Nelson up to it's a little bit past Woodland. That's just so narrow, there's no room there. It's another possibility.
Yeah, I suspect that if we included a bike lane in that it would lead to immediate questions from the reviewers about what the bike lane is for exactly, in the sense that it doesn't connect to other stuff. That would probably be more successful if we had a bike plan, I would imagine.
Okay.
But I mean, the same could be said about making one complete street segment. Like, it's not part of a network either, but hopefully it in itself has enough demand on either end, I would think. Yeah, Tina, go ahead.
Bill and Michael, well, maybe Bill, because Michael, I think he's kind of deferred to Bill. What is involved in making an application?
So there's a general description of the project, and it includes an assessment under some award criteria. And so I'm actually looking at this right now, and you get past the eligible project types and into the criteria, and basically it's a very simplified application that basically says, describe the project, what's the feasibility of the project to be completed by some date, and describe the need that the project actually fulfills. And I think that's where Michael has talked about, if you can show that it's making a connection, it demonstrates value because you have point A and point B, and there's going to be a value to making that connection.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, Bill, is it possible for someone, a lay person, to assist you with this? I'm happy to help. I'm just not sure I have the knowledge base in which that I'm going to be. I see myself as being more of a pain, saying, Bill, I don't understand any of this, as opposed to being of assistance.
So something that helps me a great deal, that people that don't use technical jargon, is to actually take something that I can outline and write and let someone else read it and turn it into something that someone who understands the topic, but not necessarily the jargon,
Mhm.
can make it in English. And that actually helps an application a lot, because although some of the reviewers are technically driven, some of the reviewers are not. They'll be more community relations type of reviewers. And so something that's loaded with acronyms and might be good technically won't sell to reviewers who are more interested in what's the value to the community. So rewriting something sometimes is a huge benefit. And
Well, let me throw it out there. I'm here to do what I can do. I'm not so sure that I want to vote for any project. I'm just want to share my ideas because I'm not sure. I don't have enough of a feel for everything yet. But Bill, certainly I will look at anything you have and do what I can do for you.
thank you.
Well, I think we.
And
oh,
Bill,
Joanne. Mhm.
and Bill, I would offer the same, you know, if there's some writing that needs to be done, I'm happy to assist with that, or even just to review something and maybe dumb it down a little bit, if you'll pardon the expression.
I was going to say that I feel like we should have a motion to encourage applying for something. If we don't want to specify exactly which project, that's okay also. Bill had mentioned that we could have two things and apply in order potentially.
I'll give it a shot. I'd
Ah.
like to make a motion to have Bill consider the ideas that have been discussed here today and to begin an application, or perhaps begin to work on an application for one of these transportation alternatives program grants.
I'll second that.
All right. Second from Tina. Any discussion on this motion? Bill, this is a, oh yeah, go ahead, Alan. Mhm.
I'll go on with what Tina was saying, and if you need like a proofreader that can help translate it from a less technical standpoint, if you sent it over, I could take a couple hours out and try to, I don't know, put it down into normal speak, I suppose. If that's something that's like really necessary and you didn't have the time, that's something I'd be able to do.
Well, it sounds like maybe it could be sent to the members of the TAC, and then people can respond.
Sounds good.
All right. So is there any discussion on this? Any further discussion on this motion? All right. As we have a motion and a second, we'll vote on it. All in favor of letting Bill make an application? All right, that's unanimous. Thanks, Bill. And also, I mean, if we understand that if things do not permit it, I just wanted to, get the ball rolling if we can.
I think it's a very good idea, so thank you all.
Yeah, I started realizing that I could look at the state website and see when the grant deadlines were. Like every week you learn something new that you realize that you should have been doing last week and try to add it to the list. That was my thing. All right. Next up, 7.2. It's looking at our backlog and trying to get things lined up a little bit for future agendas. So you'll note that I put in I said I was like, oh, we didn't get to talk about stuff that happened in the last year. I'll make a report. And then I was like, I could just write the annual report that's supposed to come from the committee to go into the city's annual report. I know that they're going to ask me for it next month, so why not just do that? So that's what I did. It's included in there. Like last year, I had a hard time getting my brain wrapped around this one this year. So I made a spreadsheet of our meetings over fiscal year 2022, and then tried to gather the stuff that came out of the meetings it's not as dense as 2021. And I think it goes back to capacity to a large extent. I mean, we, and this, I want to make really clear that I'm not saying that there's anything that Bill didn't do, because it is not Bill's fault that there is not capacity. But there, but it is, we do find ourselves running into, issues with, how much we can actually, do as a committee, because there's only so much that, can come in front of us, because there's just not, the people aren't there in the seats there, as Bill said, there's openings. Things where I'll note, and I probably should put this in the, I went back and forth on it, in the annual report. Having Eli was a huge asset. And so, not having Eli to prep things to come before the TAC, definitely, it's one of those things that we can notice that, that we're just, staffing is impacting us. Yeah, anyway, back to the backlog. Our, as I noted in the annual report text, like, we adopted a policy that's the 3-phase policy for fixing things for people, because previously people, like, residents would come forward and they say, this thing about transportation is not working right. A TAC meeting would happen, and then it would like disappear into the ether, like, not, and so we have a process that is based around having concrete things to make decisions around. And part of this came from Art recognizing that, sometimes things were a little chaotic, and getting this, a concrete proposal to make a decision on is really beneficial. But there, we're running into, it's hard to make that concrete thing for us to look at. And so we're next month supposed to see the design review from brain is gone, Elmore, right? Yeah, South Main Street and Elmore.
In Glenwood.
Yeah, right. And so it is it's sort of it's jumped the queue, but as far as I can tell, it is our 4th design. There are 3 beforehand that are kind of like, we're waiting on. And again, this is not a criticism for Bill, but it's just, who's going to do it is the problem that we're having. And so when I look back at what's happened over, the last year and change, and one of what I say is, man, I wish we did more. And when we look forward, we can kind of say, how are we going to do more? Some of it's changing focus. And so I'm hoping if we can get a grant going, that's something that is slightly outside of, a consultant is going to execute on the grant. It doesn't soak up the full amount of staff time that's necessary to, to have this thing. But obviously it sucks up some staff time, because they've got to, Bill has to do the application. And then somebody's got to be the point of contact for I forget the acronym, the municipal project coordinator or whatever it is. Yeah, that thing. Go ahead.
MPM, Municipal Project Manager.
That's the one. Yeah. They just say MPM. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get an MPM for that. Like, miles per month? I don't, yeah.
So we actually hired a contract MPM for the bike path on Smith Street, because we just didn't have the capacity in-house to manage the
Right.
project. So there are ways even to address that.
Yeah, it's some of these, I think that this grant requires a contract MPM if you're doing a construction with it. I think, I don't know. It was in my brain once. Yeah, so anyway, but when I look at our backlog, there's 2 kind of big, there's 3 sections of it. One is like, what's our high level goals? What are we trying to do? And to me, most things come back to trying to slow down cars, because that's what residents talk about the most. And I think a lot of the things in the list are, you know, related to that one way or another. But it makes me wonder, is there a way to get some of these big picture things without is there a way to just, you know, to make progress and get things done that doesn't involve construction? Because, you know, there's the bottleneck for construction is not just the availability of people to do it or the availability of funds, but the availability of someone to just plan what's going to happen in enough detail to have it be executable. And so we're just kind of stuck on that one for a while. Anyway, so if there's, oh, Tina, yeah.
So this question may or may not fit in here, but you just kind of triggered a note I had written on my whiteboard. Does the transportation committee have anything to do with the actual, like the bike paths? And where I'm going is with that Charles Semper Bond fund that I have no idea whatever happened. But as you're saying that, I'm thinking there was money there. Can TAC make anything happen with? Just kind of went there. So totally out of, but
I'm pretty sure it's gone
curious.
now.
Oh, okay, but there's no bike paths from it.
Well, there's some. There is a Paths, Routes, and Trails committee, which effectively has sort of like, you know, they grew out of the bike path committee. The city manager and the mayor would both like to make our committees one committee because obviously like recreational transportation is part of transportation. And so, and the chair of the PRT is also seems to be on board with that. So it's just a matter of city council deciding to do that. But then, yeah, I think the Semper Bond fund is wound down, I thought, but somebody who knows more could jump in and correct me. And Alan has his hand up. So yeah, go ahead, Alan.
Oh, cool.
How many members are in their committee?
They're down to 3, I think. So,
Okay.
and I'm not sure that all of them would actually like to continue being on a city committee. But that is up to city council and them to, you know, to work out.
Okay, awesome.
I think it makes sense for us to, you know, there's a lot of overlapping concerns and, you know, especially with stuff like, you know, putting in bike lanes, obviously that affects like, you know, the like many other uses in the transportation network. And so it's like someplace that we would have to be involved anyway. So yeah, so I'd love to see it. We'll see.
Side note, sorry about that.
Oh no, it is a good question. And the reason there's not a bike path is like Bill was saying before, every part of it was really expensive and also like very hard questions to answer. Because there just is not a way for it, but it's not a bicycle friendly way to connect, say, the Granite Museum and the current bike path. Once upon a time, and I don't know, yeah, there was a rail right of way because there used to be a rail line, because that's what the bike path that goes by the school is. It's the, you know, the old there's bits of embankment it's on and stuff. Where that line used to come all the way back down around to about where the Granite Museum is. I think it maybe a little for I got a picture of it. Like I got a nice aerial photograph of it. But we gave all that up. The city gave away the right of way through most of the neighborhood by Berlin Street. And so all of that is private property now and we can't get it back. So that was our best flat way to connect those things. And every other way, it kind of is not good. You know, not in like most cyclists are not like, yeah, I really want to bicycle up Prospect Street. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they'll try to find a different way. It's not a nice walk either.
Electric bikes.
Yeah, I know.
True.
They exist, but it's not a there's a question about mode separation at that point because they're really motorcycles and they're dangerous when they're on a pedestrian path. So, you know, electric bikes will work in some, we're just in this weird area where our modes are changing. What we expect from all of them is different. And at the same time, the automobiles that are on the streets are getting bigger very quickly, which it makes, you know, every non-automobile person, you know, like it's just kinetic energy. What is it, like 1/2 mass times velocity squared? So like, you just have the linear increase of how much kinetic energy you're going to absorb when you're adding mass.
It's
Uh,
also nice
yeah.
if you're using a mobility aid to have that flat surface. So if you're in a wheelchair or using a walker or whatever, that bike path this currently now is really nice, rather than, I don't know if you ever used a wheelchair going uphill, it's not easy, so.
I mean, even a battery one, right? I mean, that like, yeah. Anyway, so, whoop. Yeah, so on our, let me, I don't, I don't have the right page up. God, to get down back all the way to the end of the, I wanted to look at our backlog. So in our list, so we have our list about increasing connectivity with sidewalks and crosswalks. We don't have the citywide bicycle and pedestrian plan. That's something that's in the municipal plan as something that needs to happen. But I think that little chunk has been sort of in the paths, routes, and trails. And so it does belong to us too. It's we're in the list of like, there's 7 different stakeholders for the city that are like supposed to be involved in that. And so we're in the list, but it's not in our backlog. It could be added. The bike path. Oh, I added some things to this list, by the way. I talked to Joanne about, she had asked about educating people about speed stuff, and we've removed that from the list. And it's not because education's not important, but it's because increasingly research is showing that what's effective at lowering speed is design changes, and that enforcement is then, much less effective, and education is not really effective. And I guess I think that Corporal Frey would have probably more to say about. I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just saying if you wanted to, my guess is that education is seen as a way to to decrease the need for enforcement. And that would be good. But what we really need is to get roads that are telling people by their being on it, like, hey, this is a slow down place. Fortunately, we have a lot of tools for that. It's just, that they involve construction. And so this is it's a bit of a vicious circle. Things that I added though, thing we can do is figure out how to get rid of the parking ban, the winter parking ban. Having cars on the street is traffic calming. And so that we don't have to do any construction for. The problem though is creating the conditions that make people want to leave their cars on the street, and also having something that works for snow clearance. So there's cities that have done it, all over the place, northern cities, but we would have to figure that out in a way that worked for us. The other thing I added to our list was options for reduced speed limits, because we have a charter change that allows us to set speed limits lower than 25. And I don't know what the limits are for that. And I don't know what the, forgive me, but the guardrails. But I think that that's one of the, that's an area that we can look at. Setting a lower speed limit is not going to fix a speeding problem. People will continue to speed. But it tells, that when the sign's up, it shows we're serious in the area where the sign is up. And it does increases fines for people who are going whatever speed that they're going. And so it's, is it enough? It's not. But I put it on our list because it seems like the kind of thing we can identify where we want to reduce the speed, we can get the signs, and it doesn't involve, it doesn't involve engineering. Anyway, let me see. I was just looking at our section 1. Those are the big picture things. The sort of like, what are our strategic, like, what are we trying to do things. If anybody else had something that's not on that list that they think should be, so that's the one that says proposed advisement topics. Maybe I should change the title. That title is the same as it was like when I made this list, like, a year and a half ago almost. But if there's something that you want on there, let me know, we can get it on there, or we can talk about it as a committee and get, prioritize these things and then, make some advisement. The next section that I really would like to make some progress on is the locations with resident concerns section. We've been adding to it and not chipping away at it. And, that's something we can't do on our own. And I know that Bill would like to make this shorter too. I think that part of what we can do as a committee is identify the places where we can have policies that are going to make things better. But often a policy is not, it's not going to do anything by itself. We could have a policy for where we install, speed interventions, say like a speed table, something like that. At least then there's a quick answer for Bill to say, should I do it? Once that exists. I go back and forth on this. Mostly I want to take these problems that people came to us with and figure out how to solve them and then do something. And I don't think I do want in the future to have a policy that answers most of these things. So we don't where the TAC, our role doesn't have to be like, the intersection review board or something where we look at every intersection and decide what happens. Like, it's not very efficient. And it could mean that we make decisions that are, that have favoritism in them. And so really like having some clear policies is great, but it requires expertise to make a policy for the whole city. So it's another one of those kind of circular problems. But at the very least, I think we can look at these, at each of these things, at these locations, and move down the list. And so I hope that I'll meet with Bill, be able to kind of like chunk these into future meetings, so that we can say, here's the meeting, we're going to do this. And for each of these, we have a 3-step process for how we do stuff with the TAC. So we, first the thing comes in, and so all of these that are in our list, like we've got through stage 1 because we've recorded the problem. Some of them we've got to a stage 2, which stages, whatever we want to call them, but step 2, where we have a proposal where it's like, hey, maybe we should do this. And ideally, in our step 3, we're getting the public in who lives in that area, and we say like, does this work for you? And I hope that this is the way that we can close the loop and say, we heard from the public, our experts came up with a solution, like we looked at it, we agreed, we thought it was a good solution, and does this work? But I think we're stuck in the middle on some of these, and once we can get through them, I'd love to look at this and show like, oh wow, look, we can point at these things that we have that we've done. And I would say, and I mentioned this in the report, that we did this process for the intersection of Hill Street and Perry Street, and it works great. And that's all Bill, because the process did not fully exist when that happened. It just, we did that process and it worked. Anyway, so I didn't have anything more to say about the resident concerns, except that I really want to try to get them scheduled and have it be clear months in advance which things we're looking at in which month. We've just had a hard time getting that scheduled because we don't know what we can do. And I think it might not be realistic for us to actually know what we can do, but we can at least take a stab at it. Yeah, which then the third section of the backlog thing is standing commitments, which is stuff that basically the department said would happen, and we're tracking this so we can keep track of it. I would say we want this in like project management, some kind of project management tool, but there isn't one right now, at least not one that I know of. So I'm putting them here. It's bad. It's not good enough, but it's better than having them be forgotten. Because like I was saying, the stuff that came out of the TAC in the past just disappeared. And at least when we can look at this and we can say there's only 2 green lines in this list, but we haven't forgotten it. All of this stuff is stuff we can make progress on, anytime we're able to. Yeah. Whew. One of the
And
things.
Michael,
Yeah, go ahead.
if I could just add, what I'd really like to see is to be able to have these at every single, these lists at every single meeting. And that these are the things that are part of our agenda, and these are the things that we look at every single month. Because,
I'm-
you know,
oh, go ahead,
until
sorry.
it's right there in front of you and you're looking at it, it's really easy to forget about.
Mhm.
I'm gonna include this backlog in each of our packets going forward. And I hope that the way we'll address it being on the agenda. So I think having it in the packet makes it visible enough that I don't think we have to rake over the coals necessarily every meeting. But the way we'll stay on top of it is just, working to get these items scheduled onto onto our agendas. And I don't have a future agendas place yet. But I think that would be a good thing to add to our TAC page to say, like, here's what we're planning on doing in the future. Maybe there's a way to just upload more kind of like sparse versions of agendas. Like the city website is a little, but yeah, but if you think it's clear enough basically, here's what I'm thinking. There's two ways that might make sense to do it. One is to have just a document that people can look at to say, like, here's the proposed things for upcoming agendas. And so there'd just be a list of months and saying like which things are on it. And then once they got formalized, they would show up on the website as those lines that are in our agendas and minutes. Another possibility would be just putting those sort of sparse versions of agendas up in that list. I think both of them have strong suits. Maybe the second one is actually a little better because it makes it clear when those meetings are going to happen so that anyone can know, like, yes, the TAC is planning on meeting like on these future dates and here's what's in them. Anybody have a thought? Okay, Alan gave a thumbs up, right? Okay. All right, I feel like that's what I'll probably do. Once I talk to Bill and get things sorted, we can get things into specific, like they'll say draft in some kind of way and they'll be clearly partially empty. But at least it will be something to stake out what people can expect from us in the future.
Like planning the work and working the plan, right?
Yeah, right. And mostly what we're, like we have things that are, getting in the way of getting stuff done, but we also are just running without real systems to keep us planning.
Exactly.
And so I think that's one of the things that I'm struggling to create with our, like weird patchwork of things. But I feel like at least there's more visibility than we've had in the past.
Visibility is key.
Yeah. Does anyone have a sense of which things that are hanging out that they would like to see us grab first? So of either of the advisement topics of areas of resident concerns, or some of which are reflected further down or in our commitments, because just knowing what the committee wants in terms of our next steps will help get that first prioritization done.
Well, on the advisement list, the Hill Street speeding and noise continues to be of concern. But there's a bunch of them. There's Lower Camp, there's Berlin Street, maybe we can group them. Washington Street.
Yeah. I can, this thing is a Google document. If you guys are nice to it, I'd be happy to let you edit, but don't destroy it.
You can
Yeah.
set it to comment mode, that way everyone can see.
Oh, yeah, you're
everyone's,
totally right. Yeah. Why don't-
suggestion.
Yeah, I'll do that. But I trust you guys. So,
I think
we'll
putting it on comment mode is the best way,
You're right. Yeah.
because you don't want to mess up your pretty work.
Yeah. It's okay. I just didn't want stuff to disappear and have me be like, where did that go? And then I put it back, and then it's just, like, yeah, the comments at least will let us collaborate on it clearly. And so I think that that's a very good suggestion. Thank you both.
You can also, if you click on the all changes saved in draft, you can go back to prior saved
Right.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it just
know,
gets to be a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I will definitely, I'll send you guys invites to comment, I think, because I don't want to have it be commenting from the world. Not that I don't want input from, the public at large. I just don't think that, making comments on the document's the right place for it. So I'll do that as my action item, get comments in there. Yeah, but raising anything now also, as like you say, like I have special interest in this is cool too. But if you just want to, I'll invite you to comment, and then you can comment, and then we can get things in some kind of order. I'm enthusiastic about the speed limits thing. I know it's largely symbolic, but like, sometimes symbolism is powerful. So we'll see what's possible. I'm gonna talk to Bill before I say anything.
I have some places in mind for that 15-mile-an-hour speed limit already.
Yeah,
You can go down to 15 and.
That's what I was just gonna ask.
Examples of places are Merchants Row, where you have people routinely crossing the full length of that and people trying to do 30 miles an hour on.
Yeah. Hey, that travel way is gigantic. Yeah.
Just the point of
Go
it.
ahead.
I don't think we can enforce anything under 25 miles per hour though, legally, just so you know.
Why would it not be?
It's just what I've always been told when we were in, if you enter the entrance to the police academy, it says 15 miles per hour. They said it's not enforceable.
I see. I think that's a private property thing, right?
Well, no, it's a public highway. It's considered
Okay.
a highway. So, but for some reason, 25 is the cutoff. Is what I've always been told.
Mhm. Well, the state lets us change our charter to set the speed limit lower. So I'm, I will be surprised if there's no way to do it. But I don't know. I mean, why would you probably wouldn't pull over the person who was doing 22 anyway, right? Well, I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk about this in a future meeting, but I'll be happy to become more informed about it in the interim also. Yeah. Well, I guess go ahead, Erica.
Yeah, it seems odd that it would be a charter change and yet you can't enforce it.
Well, we'll figure out more information for next time. We don't, yeah. Like I feel like we all have sort of something we know from somewhere, and of course, Corporal Frey is probably the most likely to be right, but we will learn more. Anyway, all right. Did anybody have anything they wanted to call out now for extra attention? All right. So when I make that commenting, the goal will be, first off, is to say which things you're like, why isn't this done already or something, and then we can figure out how to pull things up. I'd thought about doing some kind of like dot voting exercise kind of thing, and then I was like, we do not need to do this. We can just pull things out and make progress on them. Anyhow, I think that's all I have. I just wanted to get us on the same page for, it's a little belated for the beginning of this fiscal year. They start on July 1st, but our election was delayed, right? And so a bunch of things happened. So, but anyway, wanted to get us started off sort of on some shared ground, and we'll start chipping away at things. Okay, well, after that, we confirm the date of our next meeting, which is set for December 21st. I recognize it might be close to holidays, So it may not be a time that everyone can do. It's on the date of my favorite holiday, winter solstice, science holiday. Is this a day that basically, does anybody have a like, no, I can't do it on that day? Okay, we will plan on having that meeting. Oh, go ahead, Joanne.
Well, I just wanted to ask a question. Today's the 16th. Why are we not having it on the 14th? Is it because it's the third?
Because that's, it's
Wednesday?
always the third Wednesday.
Third, okay.
And so
Alright. Okay.
the 14th being
Alright.
only the second Wednesday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got it.
I'm not sure the extent to which it truly matters, but the idea is that if we have it on a predictable time, then the public is aware of what our patterns are, so they can attend and learn about the meetings if they want to. I think in practice, mostly people who are interested watch the videos, which makes me second guess all the dumb jokes I make. But I think we should still meet on the regular schedule if we're able to. And it sounds like we're mostly on board. So we'll schedule for it, and if something happens, then we can deal with it. All right. Item 9 is roundtable. Did anyone have anything that they wanted to bring into the committee?
I forgot to mention earlier that we did.
Go ahead, Bill.
We placed an order for a rapid rectangular flashing beacon now 7 weeks ago. It was reportedly going to be manufactured in here last week. It is not, but we are still hoping to get that in once it arrives.
Well, I'll do a little dance when that happens. That's cool.
Let's do it together.
And we'll do it on video, not on video, guys. Yeah.
Do it out on the street.
All right, that's where I'll do it. I'll do it like, at an appropriate pedestrian pace while the lights are flashing. Did anyone else have anything to add during our roundtable? Go ahead, Corporal Frey.
And I don't know, maybe this is the wrong spot to say it.
No, go
I
for
will
it.
say that I've noticed, we have all the speeding issues, but Prospect Street, and maybe Bill will be able to talk a little bit more about this with the radar things. It's posted 25 miles per hour up near the ball field, right at the city line. But for some reason, people don't see that 25 mile per hour, and they come down and a couple months, in the last 2 months, I've written a couple tickets for doing 65, which kind of blows your mind, in a 25, so but I don't know if we can get a bigger sign up there, Bill, or what's your thoughts on that, I guess?
So the signs that we're using are the correct size for the speed limit.
Okay.
But the point that you're making, though, is that it doesn't work. And they do make larger signs. And the cost is probably about 30% more. But where we're looking at, and that's a great location. And literally the city owns only the road up there. We own the road, and Barrytown gave it to us. And so we have that leg that sticks out there, and there's nothing there, so people don't recognize it. And I think the other thing you can do is you can add temporary flagging to the speed limit sign. They've done it on the interstate a number of times, where you see the clearance flags put up, and they're set up on the sign so that it draws visual attention by using an orange flag. Something that gets the driver's attention, because signs disappear into the background, especially if you're moving quickly.
So I generally when I sit up there, I sit facing into the city to try and catch speeders coming up out of the city. But I have people driving past me, so they're hitting my radar as they go in front. So they've already passed my cruiser that says Berry City Police on the back. And they're doing 40, 45, and it's one of those spots where if I sit up there for an hour, I'm going to catch at least 3 or 4 people doing at least 45, And really I should be stopping them for doing 35, but it's so prevalent. And when I pull them over, they're like, oh, I didn't realize it turns 25 till I get down to this flashing 25 sign, you know? And so it's just, there, something needs to be done. Like the sign isn't working, you know? So and people are getting tickets, but I don't
Right,
like
but
giving tickets.
not
but-
not enough to make a difference in behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Tina, and then Erica.
Well, to the point of the 25, and it's probably going to be me one day that you pull over because that section is terrible. I come down there and I'm like, yeah, I catch myself. And then I see the 25 flashing, go, oh, is there a way we could move the 25 flashing up farther to warn people sooner?
That can certainly be done. We were picking positions where we had wanted to have people recognize the community nature, but that's actually a sign that we've had some requests to change the angle that it sits at anyway. And it might well be worth relocating it just to see if it has a positive effect. I can leave the base in the ground so we can move it back. And I think that's probably what we'll do. And it's a simple thing to try out, and Corporal Fry will be able to give us some direct feedback. So yeah, we'll move the sign if folks don't oppose that. I'll just move it up to say 250 feet past that 25-mile-an-hour sign, so that they've had, you know, the legal warning, and then we can, and that'll move it almost 700 feet from where it is. So it'll pull it up well past the substation.
Erica?
No, I'm like Tina, because that's actually right above my house, and I have I have a lead foot, and you know, I'm, you know, and we all know where the cops sit, you know, so it goes 40 and then 35 before you know it's 25, but it's like boom, 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 and if you're used to that strip, you forget where the speeding, where the increments are. So yeah, you know, I think that's a great suggestion of moving them. So thanks.
Yeah, I think that this fits into a topic that we discussed a few months ago about treatments in the gateway areas, where like when people are leaving the sort of highway zone and coming into the city. And it had come up because of complaints about Washington Street, you know, near the city boundary. And I think most likely that some kind of you know, some kind of intervention there that is telling people, hey, you're entering the city, is going to be the thing that actually slows people down, because signs, you know, not that effective. The flashing ones, they do work on some people. They work on enough people that they are effective. I'm still gonna think that from the list of things that we looked at, that the median treatment, where you had like, you know, the traffic diverges to the sides, is probably our best, you know, at the gateways is going to be our best way to tell people that they're entering a new place. Partly because you can put a sign in the middle of them. So like, you know, welcome to Barrie, like all like, you know, like flowers and whatever on it, you know. Yeah, but it's the design changes that make people have to do something with their car that's going to change their, you know, their behavior. There's some links I'm going to send you guys. I was waiting for the third of this the series to come out, and I don't know if it's ever going to come out, so I'm just going to send you the first two of them. But it's about it's a nice summary of what actually works to slow people down from Transportation for America. So I will I'll send those out soon. Yeah, I am shocked, Corporal Fry, about 60, 65 up there. That's a lot.
I have never done that. Just saying, never done that much.
Glad to hear it. Good. Yeah.
Me
I'm-
neither, but I was gonna blame Erica. Oh,
Woo. Well, I'm glad that this came up. This is it was the right time to bring that up. Thank you. Did anybody else have anything to add? All right. not hearing anything, I would hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, second from Erica. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Hey, that's unanimous. We are adjourned. Thanks very much, everyone, for attending. And, have a good Thanksgiving and all that. All right. See
And
you
you
guys
as
later.
well.
And,
Happy Thanksgiving.
I'll invite you to those documents and send those links.
Thank you. Have a
Good
good
night,
one.
folks.
Yep.
Bye.
You too. Night.
Thank you. Good night.